It stings. Riverside came out competing, and they came out really aggressive. And it wasn't until about the last 10 minutes of the game where we tried to match that physicality, and so it showed on the final score.
You had 15 points today. What did you feel out there that led to some production?
I was just trying to get a win. Coach Lav talked about it pregame, but basketball is a team sport. So, the games where I've scored less and we've got the win, it felt much better than scoring 15 and ending up with a loss. But yeah, again, I think the guys, we all again, like that last 10 minutes, we all tried to do our best to get back in that game, and I think that was just a result of it. So.
Pretty good crowd today. Did you guys feel the energy from the crowd, especially when you're trying to fight in the second half?
Yeah, most definitely. The Torero Nation, they've been showing up for us, and today we let them down. Just with our lack of aggression and not being who we are. That's something that we got to fix, get back to the drawing board, and figure out how we can be consistent with our aggression, our discipline, consistently. So that's something that we'll get back to tomorrow.
5-game homestand to start the season.
Mm-hmm.
What have you gathered? What have you learned as you guys will hit the road for a neutral site game for the first time?
Yeah, we got to stick together, home or away. We got a lot of depth this year, and again, Coach Lav, he talked about it a little bit pregame, but some nights it's going to be some guy's night, and then the other night it could be somebody else's. So making sure that we are consistent with our attitude, our energy, that's going to be huge when we carry that onto the road. So this week in Palm Springs, it's going to be a good test. Cal Baptist is a good team, but I think we'll be able to answer, especially after dropping one tonight.
You guys responded after the last loss. So you feel like you've learned from that, and how you guys know that you do know how to respond?
Yeah, most definitely. And I also think we got a lot of older guys on this team, so it's going to kind of be up to us to show that maturity and bring that, again, that same aggression that consistently. After we dropped that first one, we knew what we had to do, and I think it's the same thing for going into Cal Baptist. So, we dropped one, but again, hats off to Riverside. They competed, and we got a big one on Tuesday.
Started the opening scene.
Yeah, I thought UCR came out. They seized momentum with their aggressiveness. They really controlled the paint. They worked in a cohesive manner to get the ball inside for high percentage shots. And, then through the course of the game, they also were opportunistic with knocking down threes. They really controlled the first 30 minutes of the game. I thought the last 10 minutes, we counterpunched some, but too little, too late. Some opportunistic basketball by Adrian McIntyre was a bright spot. Vuk, when he got the ball down low, was effective. We have to make sure we get him more touches. And that inside-outside balanced offensive attack is going to be good for us. But this was about, Coach Arginal, who actually attended our family's basketball camp in Northern California, one of the more likable coaches in America, and a rising star in our business, comes from a terrific basketball family. And I think, he prepared his team well. They came in and played aggressively. They've improved from game to game, and they, lit us up in terms of from behind the three-point line as well as on the interior. And so we'll go back to work tomorrow and watch this entire game, first as a staff tonight and then with the players tomorrow, because sometimes you're experiencing it in real time differently than it actually is, and it's important that, as a group, we see, as painful as it is to relive it sometimes, that's a valuable way to make progress. So, as they say, the eye in the sky doesn't lie in terms of the camera, and being able to see all the deficiencies defensively that we need to improve upon.
Where do you, outside of defensively, where do you think you guys fell short of the game plan going?
Well, I think the biggest thing was because they seized control of the tempo, and by putting the ball down low and getting themselves to the foul line in the first half, we were taking the ball out of the net after free throws, we were taking the ball out of the net after field goals, and so we weren't able to go on those runs. For us to be successful, the magic number is 7 shutouts, which is 3 consecutive possessions or more is a shutout, and we have 7 of those in the history of basketball. Your likelihood of winning is terrific, because if you get stops and shutouts, 3 or more consecutively, that's what leads to runs, and basketball is a game of runs. But because they executed so efficiently, we were never able to really get on a run until late. But we had dug ourselves a hole, down 20 or more, against a team that's using the clock and playing with purpose in terms of an approach that allowed them to really get good looks at the basket. They also only turned it over 11 times. And probably until, those last 10 minutes, they probably had 5 or 6 turnovers. So they really managed the game well in terms of the tempo, in terms of taking care of the basketball, getting good looks at the basket. And the first 30 minutes were really disappointing. But the last 10 minutes, I think we did show some life. And Adrian McIntyre kind of was the leader in that regard. But even defensively, I thought Tim Moore, Asan had one of his better games in terms of activity and rebounding and aggression. So that was a positive as well. And again, as we talked about, Vuk. But we've got to get just a better effort collectively across the board, defensively, if we're going to have success.
Adrian told us that you told the team that it's going to be different guys on different nights. For Adrian, it was his first time leading the team in scoring. Vuk had a good game. What were the individual bright spots for you?
Yeah, I think teams are going to really pressure and get under Wanse and Ty, for that matter. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to keep rotating fresh bodies on them, and their defensive coverages are going to be, clearly to be aggressive. And so it's important that, based on defensive coverages, that we scan the floor and we read and make better choices and allow the ball to find the open man. And no one needs to try and carry the team individually. No one needs to be a superhero. But just as a group, we have to be able to work in a manner that leads to good shots. And there's nothing wrong with the dribble, but when we get too dribble happy and our dribble count is too high, that means the ball's not being transported through the air. And that affects your ability to, make field goals off of assists, which is when we're at our best. That ball's popping like hot potato, and we're getting good looks at the basket, and we're sharing the basketball, and we're putting teams in rotation. And we've demonstrated in stretches that we can play a winning brand of basketball when we do that. But we've got to do it more consistently.
First 5 home games in the books. Now take the show on the road. How do you get your team to translate the productive things at home to the road?
Yeah, I mean, it begins with your film work, film study, so you can see it. So we're all on the same page in terms of what areas need to be addressed and what we have to do to remedy the shortcomings and the areas that are costing us. And if you could improve in those respective areas, it doesn't guarantee winning, but you enhance the probabilities of putting yourself in position to win a game. And we didn't do that tonight. At either end of the floor, we didn't play a brand of basketball, a style of basketball that was going to allow us to have an opportunity to win the game. There's always going to be some bright spots because they're Division I athletes, right? And they love the game. And so there were some nice individual sequences, but we've got to, as a team, come right out of the gate. I think that's another important element, is we have to have better starts and be ready right from the jump. And that's on me as a head coach, as I try and figure out the psychology of this particular group. And the last 2 games that we won, we built double-digit leads, and teams were fighting back against us. And they got back into games, but then we counterpunched, and that's back to the game being a game of runs. And so, but you want, 3 or 4 runs in the course of a game, or if it's a low-volume possession game, you want 2 out of the 3 runs. But UCR really dominated the runs tonight. We had maybe one stretch there late in the game where we went on a bit of a run and cut it to 9 or cut it to 10 after trailing by 20 or more. So that was encouraging. You naturally want to build on that. Yeah, I mean, we got taken to the woodshed. They were tougher and more aggressive and played with terrific purpose. And I told the coach as much. Got a lot of respect for Gus and his staff. Matthew Musselman, Eric Musselman's son, is is on staff at UC Riverside as well. So tip of the hat to UC Riverside, and then we've got to go back to work and get better.
How do you assess how the team responded after the first loss, going into, they had two good games after that, 2 wins? How do you assess that and how they responded, and how do you assess CBU Tuesday?
Yeah, I think, unfortunately in life, similar, to sports, that sometimes we learn more through getting knocked down. And we don't learn as much when we're having success. You'd rather learn while you win games, which we did the past 2 games, but sometimes, a game like this can serve as smelling salts or a bit of a wake-up call. And we've got veteran players, so I think it's a mature enough group to be able to respond and understand with the appropriate sense of urgency, not panic. It's early in the season, but you want to move forward and be improving at the pace, and we need to accelerate that growth and that progress, because before you know it, we'll be getting ready for West Coast Conference play. You want to get enough wins in November and December so you're playing with momentum, and you're at a place where you can feel good about going on the road West Coast Conference play. We're going to have some tough road games coming up. Cal Baptist is a heck of a basketball team. We've got to go to San Jose State. We have Long Beach. We got USC coming in. We're traveling up to Washington to play the Huskies, and so we've got a tough road ahead of us. And you can't look ahead. You just got to get better starting tomorrow. That's the task at hand, and then we'll probably come back on Sunday, Monday, and be playing again here early next week.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Okay, you got it.